Left-handedness. Left-handedness happens when the brain develops with motor control favoring the right hemisphere, which controls the left side of the body. This wiring is set before birth and cannot be changed by training or habit. There is no single gene that causes left-handedness. Instead, it comes from a combination of genetics, prenatal development, and random biological variation. This is why left-handed parents are more likely to have left-handed children, but not guaranteed to. Left-handedness is not a disorder and does not affect intelligence or health. It is simply a normal human variation that appears consistently across cultures and throughout history. Because this trait is relatively common, it serves as the baseline for this comparison. Every step after this becomes progressively rarer, sometimes by massive margins. Probability 1 in 25. Sociopathic traits. Sociopathy is not a formal medical diagnosis. It is a commonly used term for a pattern of behavior linked to antisocial personality traits. These traits can include chronic rule-breaking, impulsive behavior, lack of guilt, and difficulty forming emotional bonds. Not everyone with these traits is violent or dangerous. Many people function normally in society, holding jobs and relationships. The defining feature is how the brain processes empathy, risk, and consequences, not criminal behavior. Research suggests sociopathic traits develop from a mix of genetics, early brain development, and childhood environment, especially exposure to neglect or trauma during early years. Because these traits exist on a spectrum, mild forms are relatively common. This is why the probability is much higher than most people expect. Compared to left-handedness, this trait is already significantly rarer, and from this point forward, probabilities will drop much faster. Probability 1 in 50. Green eyes. Green eyes are caused by low levels of melanin, the pigment that colors skin, hair, and eyes. Instead of strong brown pigment, green eyes result from light scattering in the iris combined with small amounts of yellow pigment. This makes green eyes appear to change color depending on lighting. There is no single green eye gene. Eye color is controlled by multiple genes working together, which makes green eyes harder to inherit than brown eyes. Green eyes are most common in Northern and Central Europe, and extremely rare in Africa, East Asia, and indigenous populations. This uneven distribution is why the global probability is so low. Even though green eyes are harmless and purely cosmetic, genetically, they are already far rarer than most people realize. Probability 1 in 59. Autism spectrum condition. Autism is a neurodevelopmental condition, which means the brain develops differently from early childhood. It mainly affects communication, social interaction, and patterns of behavior. People on the autism spectrum may find it hard to read social cues, prefer routines, or focus deeply on specific interests. At the same time, many have strong memory, pattern recognition, or problem-solving abilities. Autism is called a spectrum because it appears in many forms. Some people need significant daily support, while others live fully independent lives. There is no single cause. Autism develops from a combination of genetics and early brain development, not parenting style or upbringing. Even at this probability, autism is still considered uncommon, and its visibility has increased mostly due to better awareness and diagnosis, not because it suddenly became more common. Probability 1 in 200. Heterochromia. Heterochromia is a condition where a person's eyes are different colors, or one eye contains two distinct colors. This happens when melanin is distributed unevenly in the iris. In most cases, heterochromia is genetic and harmless. It occurs during early eye development, before birth, when pigment levels don't fully match between both eyes. There are 3 main types. Complete heterochromia. Each eye is a different color. Sectoral heterochromia. Part of one eye is a different color. Central heterochromia. A ring of color surrounds the pupil. While heterochromia can sometimes result from injury or disease later in life, naturally occurring heterochromia is extremely stable and does not affect vision. Even though it's visually striking, genetically, it's already far rarer than most visible human traits we've covered so far. Probability 1 in 500. Red hair. Red hair is caused by a variation in the MC1R gene, which changes how the body produces melanin. Instead of making mostly dark pigment, the body produces more pheomelanin, which creates red hair and often lighter skin. This mutation is recessive, meaning a person must inherit the gene from both parents to have red hair. Many people carry the gene without showing it, which keeps the trait rare. Red hair is most common in Northern Europe, especially Scotland and Ireland, and extremely rare in most other parts of the world. Along with red hair often come lighter skin, freckles, and higher sensitivity to sunlight because pheomelanin offers less UV protection. Even though red hair is easy to recognize, genetically it is already a significant mutation compared to common human traits. Probability 1 in 700. Photic sneeze reflex. This condition causes a person to sneeze uncontrollably when exposed to bright light, especially sunlight. It often happens when moving from a dark area into a bright one. The reflex occurs because the optic nerve, which processes light, sends signals very close to the trigeminal nerve, which controls sneezing. In some brains, these signals overlap, and the brain misinterprets light as a trigger to sneeze. This trait is genetic and inherited, meaning it often runs in families. It usually appears in childhood and remains for life. The photic sneeze reflex is harmless, but it highlights how small wiring differences in the brain can create noticeable physical reactions. At this point in the list, we're no longer talking about appearance. We're seeing rare neurological quirks caused by subtle genetic differences. Probability 1 in 1,000. Extra rib, cervical rib. This condition is called a cervical rib. It forms above the normal rib cage, near the neck, when embryonic development slightly overproduces bone in that area. Most people with a cervical rib never realize they have it. It often causes no symptoms and is only discovered by accident during an X-ray or scan. In some cases, however, the extra rib can press on nearby nerves or blood vessels, leading to pain, numbness, or weakness in the arm. When this happens, it's known as thoracic outlet syndrome. This mutation shows how small changes during early development can permanently alter anatomy, even if the effect is invisible for most of a person's life. From here onward, we're entering mutations that are structural, not just cosmetic or behavioral. Probability 1 in 2,000. Supernumerary teeth. This condition is called hyperdontia. It happens when tooth-forming tissues stay active longer than usual during early development, creating additional teeth. These extra teeth can grow anywhere in the mouth, including behind normal teeth or even inside the jawbone. Some never break through the gums and are only found on dental x-rays. While some people experience no problems, extra teeth can cause crowding, misalignment, or difficulty cleaning, which raises the risk of cavities and gum disease. Hyperdontia shows how tightly regulated human development normally is, and how rare it is for the body to add entire extra structures by mistake. At this level of probability, these mutations are uncommon enough that many dentists will only see a few cases in their entire career. Probability 1 in 5,000. Polydactyly, extra fingers or toes. This condition is called polydactyly. It occurs when the genetic instructions that control limb formation produce more than the usual 5 digits on a hand or foot. Polydactyly can range from a small, soft tissue nub to a fully formed functional finger or toe. It usually develops before birth and is visible immediately at delivery. In many cases, the extra digit is removed surgically early in life, especially if it interferes with movement or shoe fitting. Some people, however, keep the extra digit without any medical issues. Polydactyly is often inherited, but it can also appear spontaneously due to a random mutation during early embryonic development. At this point in the list, we're seeing mutations that are physically obvious at birth, yet still rare enough that most people will never encounter them in real life. Probability 1 in 10,000. Complete color blindness. Achromatopsia. This condition is called achromatopsia. People with it see the world almost entirely in shades of black, white, and gray because the cone cells in the retina do not function properly. Cone cells are responsible for detecting color and sharp detail. When they don't work, vision becomes colorless, blurry, and extremely sensitive to light. Achromatopsia is genetic and inherited, usually requiring both parents to carry the mutation. It is present from birth and does not improve over time. People with this condition often wear dark glasses, even indoors, and rely more heavily on contrast and brightness rather than color to navigate the world. At this probability level, we are no longer dealing with mild variation. These are major sensory mutations that significantly change how reality is experienced. Probability 1 in 20,000. Progeria, rapid aging syndrome. Progeria is a rare genetic condition that causes the body to age extremely fast. Children with progeria appear healthy at birth, but within the first few years they begin to show signs of accelerated aging, including hair loss, fragile bones, and stiff joints. The condition is caused by mutation in the LMNA gene, which normally helps maintain the structure of the cell's nucleus. When this gene malfunctions, cells become unstable and wear out much faster than normal. Progeria is not inherited in most cases. It usually occurs as a random mutation, meaning parents do not carry or pass down the gene. Although intelligence is unaffected, progeria dramatically shortens lifespan, with most individuals living into their early teens due to heart disease or stroke. At this point, rarity combines with severity. These mutations don't just alter traits, they reshape the entire course of life. Probability 1 in 100,000, human chimerism. Human chimerism occurs when two separate embryos fuse together early in pregnancy, forming a single individual with two different sets of DNA inside one body. This means a chimera can have different DNA and different organs, different blood type than their skin, genetic material that doesn't match their own children in DNA tests. Most chimeras never know they have it. The condition is usually discovered accidentally during organ transplants, fertility testing, or forensic DNA analysis. Chimerism does not affect intelligence or lifespan. The body functions normally, but genetically, the person is not one individual at the cellular level. At this level of rarity, we are no longer talking about traits you can see. These mutations exist invisibly, detectable only through advanced genetic testing. Probability 1 in 1 million. Mirror hand syndrome. Mirror hand syndrome is an extremely rare developmental mutation where the hands form as mirror images, often with extra fingers arranged symmetrically instead of the normal thumb to pinky layout. This happens very early in embryonic development, when the genetic signals that tell the body which side is left and which is right become confused. As a result, the usual blueprint for hand formation is duplicated incorrectly. People with this condition often lack a true thumb, which can make gripping objects difficult. Many undergo reconstructive surgery in childhood to improve hand function. The mutation is so rare that fewer than a few hundred cases have ever been documented worldwide, making it something most surgeons will never encounter firsthand. At this level of probability, these mutations are not just rare. They are medical anomalies, studied individually rather than statistically. Probability 1 in 10 million, Proteus syndrome. Proteus syndrome is an extremely rare genetic mutation that causes parts of the body to grow uncontrollably and unevenly. Bones, skin, organs, and tissues may grow larger on one side of the body but not the other. This happens because of a mutation in the AKT1 gene, which controls how cells grow and divide. When the gene malfunctions, some cells receive constant grow signals, while others develop normally. The condition is not inherited. It occurs randomly after conception, meaning only certain cells are affected. This creates a mosaic body, where normal and mutated cells coexist. Proteus syndrome usually worsens with age. While intelligence is often unaffected, the physical complications can be severe and require lifelong medical care. At this probability level, these mutations are so rare that each known case becomes a medical study rather than part of a population trend. Human genetics allows for incredible variation, but as probabilities shrink, these mutations become less like traits and more like biological anomalies. Each step down the scale shows how tightly controlled human development really is. If you want more probability comparisons like this, subscribe for future breakdowns.